Tommy thinks he can be both M-Tex's president and its lead landman because, for most of his career, those two roles were never separate in his mind. The show makes it clear that Tommy comes from a world where leadership wasn't about titles or org charts. It was about being the guy who could get things done when no one else could. In his experience, authority was earned in the field, not handed down in a boardroom. So when M-Tex needed a president, it probably felt natural to him to believe he could just keep doing what he'd always done, only on a bigger scale. There's also a deep sense of personal ownership driving that belief. Tommy doesn't see M-Tex as a company he works for. He sees it as something he helped build and protect. That kind of emotional investment blurs boundaries fast. Stepping back from day-to-day land work would feel like abandonment, not delegation. In his mind, staying hands-on isn't overextension, it's responsibility. If deals go bad, he wants to be the one who tried to stop it, not the executive who heard about it too late. Another reason Tommy believes he can juggle both roles is that it used to work. Earlier in his career, his instincts, stamina, and reputation carried him through impossible situations. The show hints that he survived downturns, hostile negotiations, and financial brinkmanship before. That history creates confidence, but also blind spots. Success in the past convinces him that the rules haven't changed, even though the scale and stakes clearly have. Pride plays a role too, but not in a shallow way. Tommy's pride isn't about ego. It's about identity. Being a landman is who he is. Being president is what he has to be. Letting go of either feels like losing part of himself. Admitting that the roles now conflict would mean admitting that his old way of operating no longer fits the world he's in. That's a hard truth for someone whose self-worth is tied to endurance and competence. There's also fear under the confidence. If Tommy stops being a landman, he becomes just another executive, replaceable, political, exposed. If he stops being president, he risks being seen as someone who couldn't handle the pressure. Holding both titles at once allows him to avoid that reckoning. As long as he's doing everything, he doesn't have to confront what happens if he does less. The show reinforces this by constantly putting Tommy in crisis mode. There's never a clean moment to step back. Every episode introduces a new emergency that only Tommy can fix. That narrative loop feeds his belief that he's indispensable in every capacity. The irony, of course, is that being everywhere at once makes him less effective everywhere. Tommy also underestimates how different power looks at the top. As a landman, he could improvise, threaten, charm, or walk away. As president, every move creates legal, financial, and reputational ripples. He thinks he can apply landman logic to executive problems, not fully grasping that the presidency is about restraint as much as action. The more he tries to operate like he always has, the more trapped he becomes. Finally, Tommy believes he owes it to the people around him, his workers, his family, even Cammy, to hold it all together. Quitting one role feels like letting someone down. That sense of obligation keeps him stretched thin, even as the cost becomes obvious. He convinces himself that if he just holds on a little longer, balance will magically return. In the end, Tommy thinks he can be both M-Tex president and landman because his entire life has taught him that survival comes from doing more, not less. Landman is slowly arguing the opposite, that knowing what to let go of might be the hardest and most necessary skill he's ever had to learn.